joining and welcome to a new webinar on what's next in Spotfire. Today's presenters are Agnew Baring, Magnus Rylander, and Miguel Diaz. They are senior product managers at TIBCO Spotfire, and they will show us the new features and functionalities of Spotfire. If you have any questions or comments, please add them to the Q&A chat of the Zoom. We will read them at the end. Miguel will start presenting, so please, the stage is yours, Miguel.
Thank you, Julieta. Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Miguel Diaz. I'm Senior Product Manager for Spotfire, and today, together with my colleagues, Magnus Rylander and Arnaud Baring, I'm very glad to present you what's new in Spotfire 12.0. We are very excited to tell you about this new long-term support release, and we hope you are too. As usual, here comes our standard disclaimer slide. As you may already know, Spotfire is extremely powerful, easy to use, enterprise-grade visual analytics platform for discovering the most valuable business insights at any scale. Key advantages of a modern insights-driven organization are the rich, immersive insights provided by Spotfire, with market-leading capabilities for a full spectrum of use cases like the ones listed here. Spotfire is a human-centric tool for exploration of data. 4 places where Spotfire shines are in immersive and interactive visual data exploration, combining data science and visual exploration, real-time insights, and guided analytic applications. Through the analysis, the dynamic and highly interactive visualizations, along with the AI-assisted recommendations, help users noticing anomalies or trends, patterns, and underlying causes, sometimes even answering questions you would have asked but didn't think of. And this leads to even more questions, uncovering more insights. Spotfire is uniquely interactive and suited for exploration. In many high-value cases, out-of-the-box data science embedded in visual analytic tools is not enough for the problem at hand. And often, pure data science tools are too complicated for most users and lack interactive visualization. Spotfire provides the industry's most dynamic and interactive, easy-to-use data science integration. Point and click to apply out-of-the-box or custom-built data science directly into the visualization to solve harder analytic problems. It is important to capture insights while they last. Most insights are more valuable the earlier they can be identified and acted on. For many operational use cases, the time to act is counted in minutes or seconds. Spotfire gives you unparalleled awareness of the situation in real time with historical data and context. The same level of visual analytics as for traditional data lets you drill down, drill through, filter, pan, zoom into your real-time business data. And of course, analytic apps. Spotfire helps you to apply analytics systematically into your business by making it easy to build analytic applications using either no code or low code like scripting, and if you are ready for it, full-fledged extensions like visualization modes or data functions tailored to your business process or industry. Spotfire 12 has 4 main themes. Cloud native. Now it's much easier to deploy and manage Spotfire 12 in Kubernetes using the official Spotfire containers and help chart recipes. And you can run all of the services on Linux. Spotfire is a first-class cloud citizen now, managed using industry standard tools and even providing elastic scaling for all the services. Actions. It's about bridging the gap between the insights and the actions to make decisions. Spotfire has always been used for insights, but why not act immediately when you know what you want to do, directly from the visualization? Model ops. Spotfire 12 comes with the capability to run govern, train models built in PMML, TensorFlow, TIBCO Data Science, Spark, etc. just like if they were regular functions. And of course, top requests. We have taken care to work on a specific functionality requested by our Spotfire user community. Spotfire 12 solves the two highest voted ideas in the idea portal, library version history and horizontal legend, besides many other improvements. Let me remember that Spotfire 12 is a long-term support release. We release a new LTS approximately every 12 months. LTS are supported for 1 year after the next LTS is made. And this approach provides an option for maybe more suited strictly regulated environments, or for customers who prefer a fully supported environment for an extended period of time. We have also mainstream releases, which are more frequent, typically 1 or 2 months. And mainstream releases were introduced to accelerate the availability of new features for customers that want to access always the latest improvements and enhancements as quickly as possible. Well, let's start with what's new in the cloud native theme. As I mentioned, in Spotfire 12.0, we can run all Spotfire services in Linux. We have migrated a web player and automation services from .NET Framework 4.8, only available in Windows, to .NET 6. And now that means that the web player and automation services are supported on Linux in Debian 11, we start with, and .NET 6. To provide a smooth change for all of our customers, you can still run these two Spotfire services as before on Windows using .NET Framework, or on Linux using .NET 6. We have released a new product, the Cloud Deployment Kit for TIBCO Spotfire, to provide a reference and a starting point for the deployment of TIBCO Spotfire using containers and helm charts on a Kubernetes cluster. It is released as open source in GitHub, and the repository contains a curated set of recipes to build container images and helm charts for TIBCO Spotfire. You can use it as it is to build the official containers and charts, or you can extend them and customize them to your needs. But let's see, what is this, right? I have here a small demo, right? I have a Kubernetes cluster, and I will use my containers and charts that I created with the official recipes to deploy an environment. I'm calling the charts from a custom umbrella chart, but the process will be very similar. As you can see, I have a chart values template with diverse values for the database, service configuration, a couple of web player pools with a small number of instances because I have a small VM, and yeah, whatever the configuration I want to write in. This is just a simple example. And taking that template, right, and with just one line, helm install, calling the chart, do not blink, in one liner, all the Spotfire containers are started and the deployment is fully orchestrated by the helm charts. Spotfire jobs starts, that is here, starts taking care of bootstrapping the Spotfire server, setting up the database, deploy the SDN files into the deployment area, run scripts, apply configuration, everything. And I can look into the logs while things are moving on. If I fast forward, just after 5 minutes around that, I have a full environment deployed with all services on Linux containers. That's it. So what have I done? What can you do with these recipes? You can deploy Spotfire anywhere, right? On premises or in any cloud, private, public, or multi-cloud. As long as you have a certified Kubernetes cluster distribution, you can deploy the Spotfire platform using the same artifacts, containers, and templates, the Helm charts. We believe that being cloud agnostic matters due to portability, no cloud service provider lock-in, and because it enables multi-cloud capabilities to improve your cloud infrastructure resilience and cost optimization. When installing Spotfire using the official charts, all the deployed Spotfire Server instances will join automatically and form a server cluster. And new started services also automatically are trusted and added to the environment. And from the chart config values, you can apply config, custom configuration, and even deploy apply service discovery, reverse proxy for accessing the Spotfire Server cluster service, and etc. Of course, you can take advantage of Kubernetes self-healing capabilities. Kubernetes will manage your Kubernetes cluster resources, restart any containers if needed, and replace and reschedule containers when a Kubernetes node die. You can also upgrade the environment with one-liner command. Note that in Helm, an upgrade could be a configuration upgrade, a container chart upgrade, or an underlying application upgrade. New configuration can be applied using the chart values, these ones, and the containers with the new Spotfire Server version replace the older ones, and the database schemas are upgraded automatically. Using the Cloud Deployment Kit for TIBCO Spotfire and Cloud Native Standard components, it is now possible to provide automatic horizontal scaling for all the services. Each service can be configured on its own with custom metrics and its own triggers for scaling. This means that our customers can maximize resource utilization while controlling costs. We understand also that when our customers deploy Spotfire, you need to integrate not only with the system requirements, but also with a series of supporting components for easier application management, what we call the ecosystem. Typical examples are logging metrics and security. And here our strategy is to support standard interfaces to integrate with best-in-breed cloud-native components. For example, when working in Kubernetes, the containers can be gone and destroyed anytime, and we cannot rely on the logs stored in the container. Instead, a common practice is just to forward those logs to a log collector for filtering and aggregation before storing them in a central log database. Again, customers want centralized management for their applications. And a big driver here is freedom. Freedom to deploy anywhere and freedom to integrate with other software using standard interfaces. For system requirements, for example, persistent storage, we choose to shortlist the third-party products or services that we support. For example, you can choose among the most widely used databases, Postgres, Oracle, and SQL Server, on-premises or their compatible solutions on the 3 major cloud service providers. Also, you can use AWS S3, Azure Blob Storage as a storage for library analysis. For the supporting components, there is a huge menu out there where you can choose from. Here we are looking at the Cloud Native Computing Foundation landscape, but don't get afraid, it's much simpler than that. Because, as an example today, the most common applications or for supporting components are these ones. Maybe it's not in your case, but who cares? Tomorrow, those can be others. Our focus is not to support each and every one, but to support the standard interfaces, right? For interoperability with these applications. For example, we do not care about which applications you may use for monitoring. The fact is that OpenMetrics, the Prometheus metrics format, is the industry standard for metrics. It is backed by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and it is used or supported by most of the projects out there. And that is how we can provide standard observability by default using standard interfaces. We have off-the-shelf monitoring with Prometheus scripters. because all the charts include service annotations for Prometheus scrapers, and of the Spotfire logging because all the pods include a Fluentbit sidecar container for log forwarding. Again, we care about the standard interfaces, and that's why step by step in the latest Spotfire releases, you have seen how we added support for the most recent interface specs drafts from OpenID Contact and OAuth, and we added support also for SCIM, System for Cross-Domain Identity Management. Back to the previous diagram, we can see now better what we mean. You can choose whichever the applications you want to use for observability and identity management. We support the standard interfaces. This is just an example, but who cares? So what is Spotfire 12.0 for cloud native? It is deployment anywhere using all the services running on Linux deployed as containers in a Kubernetes cluster orchestrated with Helm charts. And it is about openness, product openness, using standard best-in-breed third-party software for system requirements and open and standard interfaces for supporting components. Well, now let's talk about administration and deployment. We hear your voice, right? So that's why now it's possible to use version history in the Spotfire library. With version history enabled, you can view and restore any previous analysis versions. Version history reduces the need to redo the work if you make a mistake and facilitates, of course, collaboration with other people and troubleshooting and provides change traceability. For new installations, library version history is enabled by default, and a new version is created every time a file is updated in the library. Version history is available not only for the analysis files, but also for all visible Spotfire library items, like data sources, data functions, color schemes, SVDF files, you name it, and mods also. As an administrator, you can disable, if you want, version history entirely or for certain item types only. As you can view and manage the version history, as you can see here, from the library section in the admin UI. Just right-click into the item and select version history, and from that tab you can delete, restore, or save a copy of the specific version. For easy identification, you can even add a version name and a comment. Note that each version is a complete copy of the item, not an incremental one. That means that depending on your Spotfire usage, the storage utilization might increase very fast, right? For such situations, automated pruning using the new delete library versions command is strongly recommended. With this command, you can also control if you want to keep library item versions with comments, with names, by data expression, by content size. Also, all the library items imported into or exported from the library are now compressed using a gzip format. This provides a much more efficient usage of your storage, of course, whether the library is stored in the database or in an external object storage. And all the library operations are transparent as without compression. It's integration with open standards. Again, the built-in OAuth authorization server supports now browse-based API clients. This type of client is intended for use with the JavaScript API. Again, for easier and faster integration. We include a number of enablers for automation and scaling that you can use with the charts or outside with the traditional deployment. As you may know, Spotfire Server already provided the scripts for creation of a Spotfire database and schema. And now you can also automate this with the new command createDB and create action log DB with no extra scripts or tools. It's pretty useful for for scripting your deployment. The upgrade tool now includes a lock that prevents simultaneous executions, and this is very useful, of course, for scripted scenarios, and for example, when using the charts. For better auto-scaling, you can now order a graceful shutdown of the server from the command line, which informs all the backend services that the instance should be considered offline. Another scaling enabler, this time for automation services, before the server, the Spotfire server, assign a job to an available automation service instance. And if there were no instances running, no job could be scheduled. And now the server does not assign the job to an automation services instance until there is one with available slots. This means that automation services jobs can now be queued even if there is no instance available. This allows scale to 0. And as usual, you can revert back to the previous configuration, to the previous behavior by configuration. This is pretty useful, for example, using the jobs queue as a scaling trigger. You can start more automation services instances only when you need it. And finally, Spotfire 12 supports Java 17 for all the services. And now I will leave the word to my colleague Magnus Rylander. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miguel. All right, so let's talk about Cloud Actions. Yeah, so the new Cloud Actions feature allows you to take action in your operational systems directly from the Spotfire visualization. We believe that this is somewhat of a game changer, as it makes it much easier and faster to act on insights and really promotes data-driven decision-making. You can now, for example, trigger automated workflows and business processes, sending selected data along with the call without having to leave your Spotfire analysis. Or you can update the database, add nodes to your CRM system, or even control IoT devices, all by simply triggering actions directly from Spotfire visualizations. This is made possible by leveraging TIBCO's integration technologies that let you build custom integration apps to connect with your business applications, databases, collaboration tools, real-time data streams, and so on. Build solutions without coding. All configuration steps for Cloud Actions can be done with no-code user interfaces. This saves time, enables more robust solutions, and you're less dependent on developers and IT. The architecture for Cloud Actions is fairly simple. It's a hybrid cloud architecture. Actions can be used in any Spotfire 12 environment, both in the cloud and on premises. This also applies to the systems that your actions can integrate with. TIBCO Cloud Integration, or TCI for short, is the heart of the solution. That's where your custom integration apps are developed, hosted, and run. A TCI app contains data flows with one or more activities connecting to various business systems. You can also integrate with TIBCO Cloud Live apps in case you want to trigger automated workflows involving human interaction. With Live apps, you can create and run custom workflow applications tailored to your use cases. So now let's see how everything works. So I have a short demo here. This is a simple example of a clinical trial data review application. So this is patient data that has been collected from different trial sites. And as a reviewer, I need to go through all this data and see if it's correct or not. And the review status needs to be stored in a separate database. So in this visualization, I have two actions defined. One is to just resolve a review and set the status to reviewed. And the other one is when I find something that is potentially not correct in the data, I need to send a query, like a data correction request to the responsible site manager. And that is the only one that can correct the error. So this second action will open a case in a custom live apps application, which will handle the workflow for this data correction query. So yeah, so let's start the demo here. So I'm marking data for one patient and look at the different study weeks and yeah, compare the medical data. And I might think that these first records are, yeah, they look okay. So I decide that I want to resolve those items. And I can enter a comment. Looks normal in this case. And press next. And I see a preview of the data and I approve it. And then I get the confirmation. Yeah, there is the call has been executed. And I go ahead and look at these other two records. These are perhaps not what I expected. So I want to submit the query and request that the site manager takes a second look at this data and potentially see if there is any wrong with it. Press next, I get the preview of data and approve. So now if I, yeah, so that was the confirmation. Now if I go ahead and reload the data, you see that in this column we got the updated status. So let's see how this was configured. In the visualization properties panel, there's an actions tab, and we have our trigger points here. So there can be floating buttons or right-click menu options, or yeah, here are the configurations for the actions, and you can configure the name and description, and you can select suitable icon. And here are my parameters. So those can be end user prompt, as you saw in the example. It can also be a fixed value, a custom expression, and a document property. And this other parameter is a complex parameter. So this is represented by a data view, where I need to select the data table and the expression to aggregate over. And for each property, each parameter, I need to set a custom column expression. So in this case, I'm sending the record ID and the study ID. And I can also limit by filtering or marking. And the last parameter is just a fixed value, which I use for the email address for the site manager. Here is a preview of the data model. So let's go ahead and add a new action in this other visualization. So I go to the same actions tab. I create a new trigger point. In this case, I want the right-click menu option. I press new. I can then select a service from this dialog. I can browse or I can search for my available services, and I select an endpoint, which will then automatically create this configuration UI for me. So I can set the name and description. And yeah, so then if I want, I can select another icon here. Yeah, in this case, I have only one parameter. It's a list of record IDs. Again, it's a data view type. So I need to row for each record ID, and then I select the first record ID, and I add a marking limiter. Yeah, so now I need to set this action here, and if I then mark a few records here, I can then right-click and select my action, and you see that these are the records I selected. All right, so let's look at TIBCO Cloud integration. So this is my app. I have 4 flows in my app. So let's look at this submit query flow. It starts with a trigger point here, which is an HTTP message trigger. This defines the API. So it's a post message. And here are my parameters in this JSON schema. So you recognize the site manager email and the comment parameter. Those are simple values. And then I have this records structure, which is an array of objects with study ID and record ID. And in my flow, I have an Amazon Redshift activity, which will then call an insert command, which is parameterized. And I have a loop function here, which I can use to iterate over all the record IDs. And here I just map the data from the incoming call to my SQL statement. So I can use this iterator to select the record ID for each row that I'm sending. I also have a live apps activity. This will create a new case, which will then send an email to the site manager, which can then work with this live apps app to respond to the query. So that was that. So let's go ahead. So one huge benefit of this connectivity with TIBCO Cloud integrations is all the different connectors that are made available. So we have more than 200 built-in connectors, and in addition to that, there are a number of community-developed connectors available in the marketplace, and it's also very easy to define a connectivity to other systems that are not on this list. But this really simplifies the development. And yeah, to reiterate, the no-code authoring feature is, I think it's a very, makes it very easy to build these applications. You don't need to be a developer, and also it's kind of make the solution much more robust, as I said, because it's no custom code that you need to debug and so on. So all of this user interface you get when you are configuring your action this is automatically built, derived from the API that is read from by Spotfire when you have selected the TCI app that you want to use in your action. And similarly, in TCI, you have a very nice web-based flow builder that you can use to build your apps. And many apps are just as simple as this is just one or a few different blocks or activities, as they're called. But if needed, it can be more complex with the branches and stuff. And yeah, so we have a security model also for actions. So first we have an OAuth token-based authentication and authorization model that gives you secure connections from Spotfire to TIBCO Cloud and then on to the external systems. So the users of an action will connect with the personal TIBCO Cloud accounts, and credentials for external systems are never stored in Spotfire. Secondly, there's a trust model for actions, similar to how it works for mods, data functions, and scripts. Before an action can be applied, it must be trusted, either by the person running the action or indirectly by the administrator, specifying action configurators as trusted signers. The users will be notified of any changes made to the action configuration or the data model in the analysis after the action was trusted. And if someone incorrectly manipulates the configuration of an action, this will be automatically detected and blocked by the system. The third security feature is end user consent. an extra approval step before the action is executed, where the end user gets to see a preview of the data for all action parameters. In addition, administrator can control which user should be allowed to configure and use actions verified by licenses and group logins. So that was Cloud Actions. Now let's look at the data area. So we have a new connector in the list of connectors for Amazon RDS Oracle. And this is also available using the regular Oracle connector for 11.4 and version 10.10. And a few highlights from those mainstream releases since the last LTS. We have seamless integration with TDB that allows you to browse and search TDB views from Spotfire directly from the files and data flyout. Very convenient. And you can access real-time data from TIBCO Cloud Data Streams, also from on-premises Spotfire installations, which was previously only available in TIBCO Cloud Spotfire. And lastly, we have in single sign-on possibility, single sign-on to data sources when you are using information services and you are using the same OpenID provider as when logging into Spotfire. And the developer area, we have a new API for scripts in text areas. So this allows you to, so you can have an IronPython script or a C# extension that adds new script to a text area, and you can modify or delete existing scripts. And those scripts can be both IronPython or JavaScript. So this is generally useful when automating creation of analysis files, but especially when you want to migrate and perhaps you have used libraries that are not available anymore, like jQuery UI, you can use this API to automate the updates of your analysis files. And some improvements have been made to the SDK. So we have made it easier to get started and work with examples. And we have made it easier to build a distribution. And it's now possible to create extension that runs on Linux. So if you want to see more details, you can look at the release notes and the updated developer documentation. So that was all from my areas. Over to you, Arnaud.
Yes, thank you, Magnus. Now data discovery. So data discovery, this is a combination of visual analytics and data wrangling. We include also data science as part of it and AI to make the user experience faster, easier, and basically to lead to new insights. And it also includes sharing insights with others and building user-friendly applications that can be scaled to thousands of users. We believe Spotfire today provides the quickest and easiest way to get started with data science using data functions. And since Spotfire 11.4 LTS, we continued building on the new experience for data functions and integrating data functions as part of the visual analytics experience. Data functions are there in Spotfire for quite some time. They are no-code, reusable building blocks that adds new features to Spotfire and enable really anyone to do complex things with data without writing a line of code or using complex statistics. And for data scientists, data functions are a great way to package R, Python, SAS, MATLAB functions and distribute them as point-and-click features in Spotfire. A business user can apply complex data operations just by selecting a data function to run and pointing it at data, all through a user interface, point-and-click based. Data functions are also now integrated in the visual analytics experience. There is no need to leave the visualizations to apply data science. You can now tune data functions parameters directly from the visualizations and observe the effect instantly. And you also have now the effects flyout for quick access to all favorites data functions, or to search for data functions that have been made available in the Spotfire library. And since recently, you now also retrieve data functions in the data canvas. So you get quick information about data functions, or make modification on how a data function is set and how the results of the data function are used within your analysis. And with this great new experience for data science in Spotfire, now also part of Spotfire 12.0 LTS, comes a library of ready-to-use data functions with more than 45 data functions available in various categories like anomaly detection, clustering, evaluation, preparation, spatial, and so on. Now, earlier this year, we've made TER functions faster to run. And in Spotfire 12, we've made some improvements to Python data function startup time. Whether one or multiple Python data functions run locally, you'll see that the overall experience is now usually much faster. It depends on multiple factors, things like the machine being used or the type of data function. But in our observations, we've seen Python data function now running up to 4 times faster than in Spotfire 11.8. This improvement to speed is most noticeable for short-running functions, or when the import of packages take a large amount of time. Once the function has run a first time, you'll see that the startup is improved. And we do that by using pre-initialized background Python processes. Also new for data functions in Spotfire 12 is the ability to have clickable links inside data function descriptions. As a data function author, any URL that you add to a description, it could be the data function description or an input description, the URL is now automatically recognized and displayed as a clickable link that, when clicked, will open the target automatically in the web browser. We think this will be super useful when you need to link a data function to some documentation explaining the model being applied, for instance, or just explaining how the data function is working. Now, although Spotfire already has world-class support for Python and R for embedding data science inside dashboards, analytic apps, and data analysis, we also observe an increasing need for governance of predictive models and algorithms, a need to handle approval workflows, versioning, auditing, and monitoring of these models. We also observed teams of data scientists building their own domain-specific machine learning models and insights using Python, Jupyter, SAS, DataRobot, TIBCO, or of course, TIBCO data science. And they need to make these insights available throughout their organizations, not just in Spotfire. And in this area with Spotfire 12, we've taken Spotfire to the next level with TIBCO ModelOps. For the first time in the visual analytics industry, Spotfire with ModelOps brings enterprise-class model operations capability to put the governed algorithm behind the button. TIBCO ModelOps in Spotfire is a new type of data function to do analytics and real-time analytics on trained data. It opens up Spotfire to new machine learning and AI languages and platforms, running PMML, TensorFlow, Spark, Python scoring flows directly in Spotfire with the same experience as when using regular Spotfire data functions on web and desktop. So you can have a trained data model provided by your data scientist team for, let's say, anomaly detection, classification, forecasting, and this trained model may then be reused across multiple Spotfire analyses. And when a model is revised or updated, there is no need to update Spotfire analyses one by one. They will reflect the changes live, taking the predicted values and injecting them into Spotfire. From an analyst perspective, using ModelOps in Spotfire, you get the same exact experience as for a data function. So you load data into Spotfire, or you connect Spotfire to your preferred database or cloud database, and you start exploring data. And then you search from Spotfire for eventual models made available from your data science team related to the data you analyze. And from there, ModelOps takes over, producing outputs, enriching your data with new analyzable insights. And from an AI operations perspective, you just add ModelOps scoring flows by registering them as a data function, connecting it to ModelOps, selecting a project, a scoring flow, and a target deployment. And from there, you just save it as a data function in the library to make it available throughout your teams, or you just run it in your analysis. I will not have time today to show you a demo, but you can learn more about Spotfire with ModelOps by watching the replay of the TIBCO Analytics Forum session I made a few days ago, where I talk about operationalization of data science, and where I give some background for governed pre-trained models in Spotfire. And I also do a demo there. In Spotfire 12, we also have an update to the data relationship tool, which can now include fit parameters. This is available as an option to the linear regression, and selecting this option will now generate the slope and the intersect. The slope to indicate the steepness of a line, and the intercept to indicate the location where it intersects an axis. And this was what's new for data science in Spotfire. Now, visualizations. About a year and a half ago, with Spotfire 11, we released the mods framework, enabling to quickly build custom visualizations tailored to specific processes or industry, with stunning visuals, fully integrated with Spotfire and working on desktop and web clients. And since then, we have released a number of new visualizations for Spotfire almost every month. Combined with visualizations built in Spotfire, we now have more than 40 different types of visualizations to visualize everything you need with a truly immersive, point-and-click, pliable experience to get from data to deep insights in the fastest time and with instant feedback. Since Spotfire 11 for LTS, we've released 14 new visualizations. They range from popular visualizations like the donut chart or the gauge chart, to more advanced ones like the Gantt chart and Kanban board for project management, the bump chart to visualize ranking changes, or the Sankey diagram for analysis of flows. We also have very simple but very useful mods like the basic text area, which makes a text area available and configurable from the web, or the display value mod to display a single calculated value. And we just released 3 new visualizations. First with the sunburst chart to visualize hierarchical data depicted by concentric circles. At first, it looks like a donut chart, but this time you have multiple levels of category. The list mode visualization also to display a simple selectable list of unique values in a column or a hierarchy. And lastly, the ternary plot to visualize 3-component system on a triangle diagram. This one is usually used to show composition of systems in physical chemistry, petrology, and other physical sciences. Now, about legends, and this new feature was one of the top voted ideas on the TIBCO IDs portal. Spotfire 12 lets you save precious space in dashboards by making the legend horizontal. And you can choose the position of the horizontal legends as well, above or below the visualization, aligned left, right, or centered. Horizontal layout for legend is new in Spotfire 12, and it is available for color by, shape by, and series by axis legends. The default stays the same with vertical layout for legends. So you just have to go to your visualization property or directly, as you see here on the screen, from the legend to move the legend as horizontal. Another highly voted ID, again for legends, with Spotfire 12, we increased the maximum number of values per legend item to a default of 50 values. It was limited to 29 in Spotfire 11 and 11.8 and earlier versions. Existing analyses are not impacted by this change, and the maximum number of values can be further increased up to 250 values. It could be done at the visualization level from its legend properties, or at a user level option from tools options if you want all your analyses to have a higher number of items, or also at a group level preference set by an administrator from the administration manager. In Spotfire 12, we also have two additional color schemes for coloring visualizations available for both light and dark canvas styling, with color palettes providing higher contrast between text and background, and that meet the WCAG 2.1 level AA standard. And this was what's new for visualization in Spotfire 12. Now, analytic apps. With the Spotfire platform, you can build AI-powered and user-friendly applications that can easily be scaled to thousands of users and developed at a fraction of the cost and time required for custom development. And in this area, we recently added support for what we call actionable notification. And this is now available in Spotfire 12.0 for LTS customers. Actionable notifications enable users to take actions from notifications or get more information, for instance, navigating to another page or bookmark, or creating new pages or visualization, and even act on visualizations to highlight where the insights fall. And this directly through the click of a notification. Maximize Canvas was also released recently, and it enables to expand the size of the visualization canvas and hide all menus. So you get a full screen analytic app experience. And now with Spotfire 12, we are continuing in providing more control over the customization of an analytic app UI by enabling to display the navigation bar and status bar on top of the visualization canvas. So you can now switch their position directly by right-clicking on the navigation bar or from the document properties. Like the legend, the existing analyses are not impacted by this, and the default does not change with tabs and status bars at the bottom. But you can change the position of the bar at a document level, or as a user level option from tools options, or at a group level preference set by an administrator. And this was what's new in Spotfire 12. This release is the combination of an enormous effort by the Spotfire engineering teams. That's a big release. It bridges insights and actions with powerful new ways to make decisions right from the visualizations, integrates data science and trained data models in the visual analytics flow, immerse the user in new and improved visualizations, improve collaboration also with library version history, and take full advantage of a truly cloud-native analytics platform. In the last 2 years, and since the last supported LTS release, we delivered 10 Spotfire releases, including mainstream releases, of course, 2 LTS releases, and more than 175 new features, with many of them being featured requested on the IDs portal by our community of users. They are the ones you see in blue here in the list. And this wraps up our presentation. We hope you are as excited as us for this release. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for presenting, Miguel, Magnus, and Agnu. It was nice to learn what's next in Spotfire. We will start with the Q&A session now. It seems that most of the questions have been answered. There is someone who says, I'm mostly impressed by focus to support open standards from deployment to monitoring, logging, analytics. I don't know if, yeah, Miguel is typing, but would you like to answer on live, maybe?
Well, I mean, it's, I hope they impress in a good way. Yes, we believe on, as I said, open interfaces, open standards, and best-in-breed applications. Because in the end, you have a Spotfire and you want to connect Spotfire with many other applications. Many other applications to provide a higher value, combining them, or just for as supporting components for common administration. So yeah, that's why. It's we are part of an ecosystem. We need to be a good citizen. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Miguel. There is also a comment from David who says, indeed, the version control will make many customers happy. So well done. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for joining this webinar. I hope you enjoyed and see you at the next time.